There we are. So welcome, Bob, and congratulations on the publication of your book. So you're joining us this evening from Spain, from sunny Spain.
That's right. I've been living in Spain for many years now. In fact, my kids who are here with us tonight were both born in Spain. So I've been here in Cordoba for over 35 years or something, you know, quite a long time. And just the other day, just a couple of weeks ago, I got a copy of this through the post, the advanced copy of Mike and the Microscopic Aliens. And I felt absolutely overjoyed. You know, it was like Christmas Day, a wee boy in Christmas morning, holding this present, absolutely thrilled to have it.
So, yeah, and it looks great. I think that your illustrations that really came out really well, and the front cover just looks brilliant. So,
well, it was great. It was a great feeling because I hadn't had that feeling for so many years, because I've been a full-time author for, you know, about 20 years now, but I've been producing these kind of books, you know, the English language teaching books, educational books that are used in secondary schools all around the world to help foreign learners improve their English, you know, kids in school. And, you know, it's been great fun writing all these books, but I've been writing for the last 15, 16 years. I think I've written a book a year, you know, and, you know, it's a bit like the law of diminishing returns. You know, it's the pleasure isn't quite as intense with the last one as it is with the first one, you know.
Yeah.
The first one was this one, which was produced in Spain in 2004, you know, so 16 years ago, this one. Yeah. And when I first held this in my hands, I felt that like the thrill of the virgin author, you know. It was like, what a pleasure to hold this in my hands. And I hadn't felt that for 16 years until I got the copy of Mike through the post the other day.
So I suppose just to start off then, but how different is it then writing fiction from writing your, you know, your English language books?
It's very different. I mean, totally different. And it gets more and more different as the years go by. I mean, if I could sum up the difference in one word, then I would say it's a word that is particularly relevant to people in Scotland these days, and it's freedom. You have such freedom when you write fiction. I mean, you've got the blank page in front of you, but you can write anything you want. I mean, obviously, you have to bear in mind the audience. You're hoping somebody will read your book, you know, you're hoping somebody will read it. So you have to think about writing something people want to read. Yeah. But apart from that, you're free to write anything you want. Whereas with these educational books, because they're targeted at different markets all around the world, different societies, different countries, with their own sensibilities, you know, the students and the teachers and the parents of the students all have their sensibilities, and the publishers, well, you'll have to respect that. They have to take account of the differences, you know. So in these books, in the educational books, you can't, for example, have a photograph of a woman with bare arms. You can't, there's no way you can show any alcohol, for example. You know, you can't even show a glass on a table that might conceivably contain alcohol.
Okay.
You know, so there's all sorts of restrictions, and I understand why the publishers do it. They've got to do it. They've got to respect the societal differences around the world. Yeah. But when you write fiction, you have the freedom to write anything you want, you know, and it's it can be a bit scary. I don't know. I know Keith, for example, has been writing a book, and it can be a bit scary when you sit down to write a book. If you can write about anything you want, then how do you start? How do you choose what to write about? Yeah. You know, and when do you stop? You can keep on going forever, Stuart?
Yeah, and I suppose that's maybe the thing is like, so how did it start then? How did Mike, you know, come into being?
A long time ago. I mean, I started writing Mike when my kids were wee, and my kids are all growing up now. You can see Anna there in Madrid and David in Barcelona. They're all growing up, and I used to tell them a bedtime story. Almost every night I would tell them a bedtime story when they were wee. And their favourite stories actually were the funny, scary Winnie the Pooh stories, in which the characters from Winnie the Pooh, you know, Kang and Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin would get into the most terrifying situations. I mean, absolutely terrifying situations. And the kids loved it, of course. And then it would always end with a happy ending and somebody doing something really silly, really stupid, really funny. And especially Tigger. You know, Tigger was the orange-faced imbecile, a kind of more cheerful and bouncier Donald Trump in many ways, you know. And they loved those stories. And so I started to tell them the story of this boy in Scotland who discovered this mysterious egg in the toilet bowl at school. And it turned out that the egg was full of microscopic aliens who had a problem. And they really enjoyed the story. So I ended up writing it down. And in fact, it's thanks to Mike, it's all thanks to Mike that I got involved in writing English language teaching books. Okay. Because I showed the first draft of this story to my friend Didi, who's here somewhere. There you are, Didi. And she read the book and really enjoyed it. And she thought, oh, this is very good. It should be published. And so she was kind enough to show it to another friend called Catherine, who's here somewhere. And Catherine at the time was working for Pearson in Madrid. And so she read the book and she saw immediately that there was no way that it was suitable for English language teaching books, for educational material. But she liked the book, she liked the style, she liked the writing. And so she offered me the chance to write a sample for a video course they were doing. And I did that. I was lucky enough to get the job. And that's what led to my career in ELT, you know.
Mm. So there you are. So from little acorns of sitting there telling your kids stories, bedtime stories, you've had then a full-time author's career. You know, really.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, all those years I've been writing fiction. I've written novels, I've written screenplays, I've written a lot of short stories. Some of the short stories have been published in the Pearson books, and that's good. But Mike was sitting there in a drawer. So last year it turned out I didn't have quite as much work in the ELT business as I usually have. I had a bit more free time. So I dug Mike out of his hiding place and I blew off the dust and I blew off the cobwebs and sat down to rewrite it, to bring it up to date, refresh it. And then I sent it to you guys, to Indie Authors World in Scotland. And thanks to Kim and thanks to Sinclair, here it is, it's out, which is a great feeling.
Yeah, and as I said, that's always the best part of our work, is actually, you know, it's because sometimes there can be, I was talking to somebody the other day, they're saying how the creative part and starting writing is the fun bit. When you're self-publishing and going through some of the later parts that can get quite challenging. But the exciting part is when you actually get that book into your hands, I think.
Oh yeah, great feeling. Yeah.
You've got it there. So can we talk a little bit then about Mike and the humour that's in this book? I mean, obviously, I'm in Scotland. I so get the humour. There may be some who may not quite get some of the Scottish humour that's in there. But but did you deliberately set out to still have that sort of Scottish element in there? You know, obviously you're set in Scotland, but to try to keep to the kind of Scottish, a lot of Scottish language even in the book.
I think so. I think when you write a book like that, writing about a kid, you're going to base a lot of it on your own experience when you were growing up. And so obviously, I grew up, went to school in Scotland, so there's a lot of Scotland in the book for sure. There's also a lot of my son David in the book, because when I was telling the story, he was that age, you know, so in many ways, the character of Mike is based on David, you know. The dad doesn't appear very much, funnily enough. The mum's there and the little sister is there, but the dad isn't there very much. Talking about the humor, I think it's a very funny book. I must admit, I'm biased, obviously, you know, but I do pick it up occasionally to check it and to check out things. And I find myself reading 2 or 3 chapters, you know, because it's funny. It is a funny book. And when you tell your kids a bedtime story night after night, year after year, then you find out pretty quickly what makes kids laugh, you know. And what makes kids laugh really very often, fail-safe, toilet humour, scatological humour. So in Mike, we've got lots of jobbies and we've got lots of snotters and we've got people speak, you know, trying to speak with her mouth full of food and spitting it out. So all that sort of thing. So that's not the only kind of humour in it. There's humorous situations, humorous language as well. But I think it is genuinely, I think it is a very funny book. And unfortunately, I've got a Scottish friend in Japan called Marion, and she can't be with us because it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Japan. But she sent me a message yesterday. She'd just finished reading the book, and she said she really enjoyed it. And even though I was reading the message, I could hear her accent in the message, because she said, "It's a hoot." And it is, it's a real hoot, you know, the book. And I think it is a funny book. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you were saying, when I was reading it, I was transported back to my childhood, you know, and what my mum said to me, you know, the way that and I suppose even what I've done with my kids, where you shout on them to come for the dinner, but you know they're not supposed to shout at you, because that's a bit rude, you know. So yeah, I could see the situations, and just that, you know, that observational humour. You know, it's almost a bit of kind of Billy Connolly for kids, I think, some of this.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say that. That's great. I think it's not just for kids though. I mean, I think the book's for adults as well. You know, I mean, it's got a serious environmental message in the book, but I certainly don't want it to be preachy. You know, it's not preachy, it's not teachy. I want the kids to get engaged with the kids and the adults to get engaged with the exciting adventure of Mike and the Microscopic Aliens. And I want them to laugh out loud at the funny bits in the book. But that serious environmental message is kind of creeping in undetected, I hope. And I think it's good for kids and for adults as well. I mean, it's a wee bit like the Roald Dahl books for kids, you know, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Twits, the Witches, that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, I'm not in the same league as Roald Dahl, but I think, you know, I think I've managed to write a book that appeals to kids and adults. And in fact, I know Nathaniel, or actually Neil Waterman, is here with us tonight. Yeah. And Neil writes under the pen name Nathaniel Ray, Nathaniel M. Ray, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And he recently wrote a book called Liberty Bound, which came out with Indie Authors World the same day as Mike came out. And Neil was kind enough to read the book and to write a review, a very positive review of it. And he really hit the nail on the head, as far as I'm concerned, for how the book appeals to both kids and adults. So if I can just read 3 lines from the review that he wrote. Yep. He said, "In the book, there is an everyday realism in understanding and connecting with a child and their way of thinking. It's fun and funny, with a charming, cheeky, subversive flavour that will really appeal to the kids and bring a wry smile to the face of any adult reader." And I think that's true. And I'm very, very pleased he said that, because that was my aim all along, you know? Yeah.
So that's it. So I'm encouraging everybody to go off and read it. Even if you don't have kids, folks, you know, go and read it, because you will enjoy it. And I did find myself laughing as that. It's when we're working with a book, it's really when it's done and finished, that's when we get to go back and actually read it and enjoy it as the book, rather than the publishing side of it. So and I've been reading it as we got the paper back in our hands as well. I've been reading it and enjoying it too. So I'm sure there'll be lots of people queuing up to
I hope so. I mean, you know what it's like. There are some books you read and you want to keep on reading them because you want to know what happens. But once you've finished it, you never pick it up again. You don't want to. But there are other books that you read, you finish, you know exactly what's happened, but you want to pick it up and, I'll read that bit again because it's so much fun reading it, you know.
I'm sure they will. The whole scene, particularly the start when Mike finds the alien egg in the toilet. I mean, that's just I'm looking forward to the. I can see it as a TV series developing, you know, that.
Cartoons, a big cartoon show, yeah.
See that. So the other thing that I think that you've done really well is that the narrator talks to you, the reader. You know, you've actually got that interactive element about, there's bits where you're encouraging the reader to go and do something. But just even the way that you're talking, you know, as we're reading it, you're talking to me as I'm reading it, as well as then listening to Mike speak. And that's a real talent, because I don't think that's an easy thing for people to do and strike that balance so that it
Yeah.
still becomes a readable book. And you've done really well with that.
Thank you again. I mean, just to show off my literary knowledge here, a literary reference that I'm sure my mate Steve Yankowski will enjoy. One of my favourite novels of all time is The Life and Times of Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Sterne, which was one of the very first novels in the English language. It was written in the mid-18th century, 250 years ago. But if you pick it up now, it seems really, really modern, because he does this thing of addressing the reader directly, engaging with the reader. And even to the extent, you know, asking the reader's opinion and leaving a blank page in the book for the reader to write down what the reader thinks of the book or thinks of something. And that's what I've tried to do with Mike. So even from the very first chapter, you know, I'm addressing the reader directly. And quite often in the book, I'll stop the narration. A couple of times I've stopped the narration to ask the reader to guess what a participant in the situation, a character in the book, what they're going to say next. Don't turn the page until you've thought about what they're going to say. Write it down in a notebook, then turn the page and have a look. And the same thing the first time an alien comes out of the spaceship. You know, I say, describe the alien coming out of the spaceship, and then say, stop, don't turn the page and look at the picture until you've imagined for yourself what the alien looks like, and have a wee drawing of it yourself, compare it to what the alien's like, you know. So yeah, I mean, I think this interactive thing is very important. It's a key part of the book, really.
I was just noticing, Stuart was just leaving a message there saying he couldn't hear on the audio, but I don't know, I think it's possibly something to do with, because everybody else seems to be here, and I can hear you okay. So I'd probably say, Stuart, test your, you can test the speakers, because it's probably a setting in your computer that's maybe not listening, not tuning in. He'll just have to watch the replay again, then that's what he'll do. Whenever we send the video out, then Bobby can watch it again and enjoy and see what he was, because he's apparently trying to listen.
I could try communicating just for Stuart through the medium of dance, you know. And we had to actually think of the shift as well, because you were saying, like, leaving a blank page for to encourage the kids to write, but realising that one thing is that library books, for example, libraries hate books that have got space for kids to write in. So that was a quickly kind of rehashed, go and get a bit of paper or a notebook. Yeah, absolutely. But it still works, I think, yeah. Yeah, it does indeed. It's great. I think the other thing that really brings the book to life are the illustrations. And you've got some examples, you know, sitting behind you as well. How did you find your illustrator? You know, how did you come across Victoria? And how did you decide which parts that you wanted to illustrate? Because that can be a challenge, isn't it, when you've got a whole book and you're trying to kind of come down to the parts that you really want to then depict with an illustration. Yeah, that was tricky. That was very tricky, deciding which parts of the book to illustrate. Some things are obvious, you know, key moments in the book, like when he first discovers the egg in the toilet, or so on, or at the end when he's trying to throw the egg out the window. So key things that you definitely want to be in there. But initially I was aiming to have just about 10 illustrations, but in the end we went up to 14 because I just wanted more and more. I would have been happy to have 20 actually, yeah. And I think Victoria Castillo, Vicky Castle, did an absolutely wonderful job with the illustrations. Vicky's lives in Cordoba, and she's a friend of my kids. She's not only a wonderful artist, she's also a very good actor. And she studied dramatic arts here in Cordoba with my daughter Anna, who's an actor in Madrid. And she's just done such a good job in the illustrations. I mean, she really works very, very carefully on them. Here's one, you know, you can see how big it is, you know, and the details are absolutely stunning, you know. So if you get a copy of the book, I really, really recommend you to find yourself a magnifying glass, like Mike uses in the book himself to actually see the aliens. Find yourself a magnifying glass and look at the pictures very, very carefully, and you'll actually see there's some jokey little messages hidden in there as well, you know. So yeah, Vicky did a great job. Yeah, yep. Wonderful. That's it. Everybody's going to be away scouring about now looking for magnifying glasses then.
It could be a bit of merchandise then done for microphone kind of magnifying glass that you can sell alongside the book. Always another way to kind of like make some money out of book sales. So the aliens, what inspired this microscopic alien then? I mean, obviously they were found in the toilet, so they couldn't be too big. But was there, did they start off when you were telling the story years ago as these tiny aliens? And
yeah, when I was telling the story to the kids, because the story started with him finding an egg in the toilet bowl, and then I had to think, well, what's so special about the egg? I know it's a spaceship. Well, you can't have giant aliens inside a tiny spaceship, so they had to be microscopic. I wouldn't look at the science of the book too carefully. I'm sure that the physics are all wrong, but, you just got to suspend your disbelief and go with it. It's hard to tell about where do you find the inspiration for an alien. I think we've all got in our heads what we think an alien would look like from, seeing so many films and TV series and cartoons and reading descriptions in books. And we've all kind of got our own image of what an alien might be like. So I described my image to Vicky and she embellished it, improved upon it. And that's the aliens that we've got in the illustrations in the book. There's another thing about the aliens that I think is interesting. And, and those of you who know me well know that I'm quite idealistic. And the aliens come from a planet that's doomed. It's doomed to destruction. But they also come from a really advanced society. And one of the aliens, I'll just read 3 lines from the book of the alien, describes their society. It says, "We have solved all the important problems on our lovely planet. We live in harmony with all the other species, both plants and animals. And we have managed to create a society where everyone has enough food, decent shelter, and time to enjoy life and develop their full potential. We haven't had a war or any kind of violent conflict for over 10,000 of your years." So I just wish I'd asked Keith to play Imagine while I was reading that, but yeah. It's a very idealistic vision of society. It would be wonderful if we could have that on Earth, of course. I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime, but you never know,
Yeah.
Oh, there's another thing in the book about the aliens that kids will love, which is they've got this special headset to put on, which allows you to learn things in your sleep, So poor Mike, a bit like David when he was wee, was not the best student in the world at mathematics. And so he puts on this headset overnight, learns trigonometry, no problem at all, and that'd be wonderful. So I think the kids reading the book will really enjoy that.
Never mind the kids, I think we'd all be queuing up.
Yeah, the only thing is, it would put, there's quite a few English language teachers here and translators and people who work in the English language teaching publishing industry. And of course, if that existed, we'd all be out of a job.
There's always going to be, there's always room for people to learn a little bit, but you need the experts around that, isn't it, to help out. So, and I think that the aliens, as well as this utopian world that they're coming from, because then you've created the fact you think, well, why would they be here? Why would they be doomed? So it's basically there's a potential meteorite coming to knock them, that was kind of disseminate the planet. But they've got to find their way back. This is the thing, we've got to find their way back, and that's where you've also got this sort of environmental message then sort of coming through about about cars in particular, and how like that Mike doesn't like cars, and that starts with something actually quite sad and quite but that could be potentially quite disturbing.
Well, it's putting it mildly, if you don't even need to open the book to see that Mike doesn't care for cars. If you just read the blurb on the back, unfortunately my arms are still long enough for me to be able to read this, It says, Mike hates cars. His big brother was killed by one in the big road when Mike was only a wee boy, and now his mum won't let him go to the park on his own. So he hates cars for a very good reason. Now, I don't hate cars. I've got a car, and we need a car. We need a car to go to the village to see my father-in-law, who lives in a wee town just to the south of Cordoba. And my wife Miki and I will both love hill walking, you know, so we need a car to get up to these beautiful hills near Cordoba, and we like to go hill walking up there. And a car is very, very handy to be able to do that. You know, without a car, it's pretty difficult. What annoys me though is the indiscriminate use of cars. People use cars when they don't need to. They're hypnotized by the car manufacturers into believing they've got to use their car for everything. And a good example of this is the town where my father-in-law lives in south of Cordoba, called La Rambla. And it's one of these beautiful Andalusian towns. It's a wee town, 7,000 people. Beautiful place with whitewashed houses and narrow winding roads. And it's clogged with cars, absolutely clogged. The traffic jams in La Rambla are worse than in Cordoba. It's absolutely terrible because people just can't get out their cars. And I think maybe one good thing that we've seen because of the COVID-19 virus is because people have been using their cars less and less, we've realized how wonderful it is to have a quiet city without the noise pollution from cars, and to have clean air to breathe without the air pollution from cars. And cars take up so much space as well. I mean, even more so in a compact city like Cordoba, compared to maybe in Britain or the States, people have got driveways and garages, but here, most people live in apartment blocks, and many people don't have off-street parking, you know, so they've got to park in the streets, and the streets are lined with cars. It's terrible, and it's something I feel very strongly about. And many years ago, I joined an association in Cordoba whose aim is to promote urban cycling. And it's called the Plataforma Carril Bici de Cordoba. And I've been a member of it for many years, and the aim is to get people out of cars onto their bikes. And that brings me to a wee story, which I haven't prepared at all, of course, which is quite a few years ago, I was invited to Poland by Pearson to talk about writing a new course book with him. And I'd never been in Warsaw before. It was an important meeting. It was a big meeting, very serious. It was about 12 people all sitting around this big table. And the thing is that they all knew each other, but nobody knew me. And I didn't know any of them. So I was a wee bit nervous. And the meeting started, and the boss of the meeting, the leader of the meeting, Teresa, said, Bob, why don't you start by telling us something about yourself? So I did the usual, you know, I told them the usual stuff: place of birth, place of residence, married, 2 kids, favorite alcoholic beverage, you know, all the basic stuff, you know. And then they were all still staring at me, you know, as if they wanted more, as if they wanted something interesting. And the only thing that came to my mind, the only thing I could think of telling them was about this association that promotes urban cycling, as if that was interesting, you know. So I thought, that's right, I'll tell them that. And the other problem with that is this is something I only ever talk about in Spanish. I never talk about it in English. So I'm in this really important meeting with these people around the table, and my brain is working in Spanish, but my mouth is working in English, right? And so I say, oh yes, well, here's an interesting fact about me you might not know. I am the vice convener of the Cordoban Association of Psychopaths. And suddenly there was a moment of silence, and somebody gasped, and people edged away from the desk, and then Teresa picked up a pen and brandished it in front of her and said, the Cordoban Association of Psychopaths? And I said, no, psychopaths, bike lanes. Yeah. So I think it's something that matters a lot to me, and it matters a lot to Mike in the book as well. And so that's the environmental message at the heart of the book. But as I said earlier, it's not preachy, it's not teachy, it's there. And hopefully it'll get through to people, but without being heavy about it. Yeah.
So I think you lost your host.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just carry on then.
Yeah, just carry on.
Okay,
just
thank you, Anna.
myself to tell you that, yes.
I don't know where she's gone.
I think good. Maybe some internet connection problem or something.
Okay, right. Okay, well, I'm practically finished. There's a couple more things to say. Just one thing I want to say, because there's a few people here who are not native English speakers. And I think this book is suitable for native speakers, but it's also suitable for non-native speakers. And I think there's a lot of English language teachers here as well. And I think you would all agree with me that extensive reading is a really good way to improve your skills in a language. Maybe good if you're a Spanish person here, for example, might be a good way to improve your English, or if you're a teacher, a good way to get your students to improve their English. And I want non-native speakers to buy the book as well. And what I've done to help them do that is I've put up on the website some PDFs, and the plan is to have a PDF for every chapter in the book. There are 40 chapters so far. I've done 15 PDFs, and each PDF has a glossary of the most important, most difficult words in the chapter. It has an exercise for comprehension, an exercise for vocabulary, and a few questions for speaking as well, in case a teacher wants to do it with their students in the class, or in case two friends want to talk about the book at the same time. And also, before you start reading, there's a PDF you can have a look at, which can teach you how better to understand words that you don't understand, you know, so to use the context and to use the sound of words as well to understand their meaning. And as part of that PDF, there's also a glossary of the Scottish words which are used in the book. So some of you non-Scots out there, you may want to have a look at that PDF before you read the book and improve your vocabulary a wee bit. Are you back, Kim?
She's back, but I don't know if she can.
There we are. Can you hear me?
She's obviously got some kind of problem there. Yeah, she's on her way back.
That's good. Yeah, it was Zoom completely just crashed. So I've had to relocate, and so you held the fort well, I think, by the sound of it.
My daughter stepped in with her usual aplomb. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Well done for that. I know it was just moving location, plugging other things in, and trying a different computer. So here we go. Yeah. So.
I think we're practically at the stage where we can read a wee excerpt from the book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've chosen not to read chapter 1 because I want to read one of the chapters that gives the flavour of the book, the humour of the book that's so key, but also a chapter that doesn't give away any of the story. Yeah. So I've chosen to read chapter 17. In fact, I'll read it from the screen because otherwise I'll have to put my glasses on. Okay, so it's chapter 17, and the background to this is Mike has found the egg, he's got it home with him, and he wants to investigate it further. But his mum wants him to go back to school in the afternoon, so he pretends to be ill, and his mum falls for it, so he's in his bed in his jammies, and he realises that to help the aliens, he needs to get his mum's hairdryer. So that's where it starts. So chapter 17, a difficult explanation. He can hear his mum in the kitchen. She's talking to herself, and although Mike can't quite make out what she's saying, he knows that she's probably filling the washing machine because she's speaking with that moany sort of voice she tends to use whenever she sees the state of his socks and underpants. He tiptoes down the corridor and sees that the bathroom door is open. That's good, because the door handle squeaks when you turn it. He opens the bathroom cupboard and peers in. There it is, Mum's bright orange hairdryer. He kneels down and pulls it out. His heart stops for a second as a big glass bottle of smelly stuff almost topples over, but he manages to catch it and put it back on the shelf. His mum calls that stuff Eau de Cologne, which makes Mike wonder what's wrong with Dick, that he hasn't got any friends. Whatever, he can't stand the smell of it. Once for a wedding they went to in Fife, she sprayed some of it on him, and he thought he was going to be sick, and then his cousin Billy kept smirking at him all through the wedding. Mike shakes his head to get rid of that unpleasant memory, and stands up with the hairdryer in his hand. He's just about to go back to his bedroom when he hears Mum coming down the corridor. Too late to get to his bedroom. Quick, somewhere to hide. He turns around. Oh no, the flex from the hairdryer is still stuck in the cupboard. His mum is getting closer. He pulls the flex and a stack of toilet rolls comes tumbling out onto the floor. Mike gasps and bites his lip. Mum comes into the bathroom, locks the door behind her and starts undoing her trousers. She sits down in the toilet seat. She hasn't noticed that the bathroom cupboard is open, but then she frowns. That's funny. She's sure that she tied the shower curtain back in place after cleaning the bath, and yet there it is, drawn across. She reaches out, pulls it back, and shrieks in fright, "Mike, what are you doing?" Mike is standing in the bath with the hairdryer in one hand, the flex in his teeth, and a big pile of toilet rolls in his arms. Now stop there for just a minute and think, what would you say if you were Mike? Maybe you've already been in a situation like that, so you have some experience. But even if you haven't, you've got a wonderful thing called an imagination. So use it and write in a notebook what you would say. Then and only then you can turn the page to see what Mike said. So back to the story. Mike, what are you doing? Mike is standing in the bath with the hairdryer in one hand, the flex in his teeth, and a big pile of toilet rolls in his arms. I thought it would be a good idea to have a shower. In your pajamas. Oh, I knew I'd forgotten something. And what are you doing with my hairdryer? I wanted to be ready to dry my hair as soon as it finished having a shower, because I'm not well and it isn't a good idea to go to bed with wet hair. But the toilet paper. What are you doing with all that toilet paper? I couldn't find my towel. And that's that. Have we lost Kim again, haven't we?
Hello, no, I'm here. Can you?
All right. There we go. That's the book. That's the excerpt read.
Well done, well done. As we said, yes, the humour definitely there between the levels at which an adult would understand and read and listen to it, and a kid as well, but just so much fun. And we had a comment there saying, what was it? The comment was, what had been actually panic buying. I've been panic buying, Mum, said Simon Beaver. That's why he's got all the toilet roll. So I'm just checking. I don't know whether you've had any other questions. Well, whilst I was kind of like trying to actually run downstairs and reconnect on our computer, we'll just pick up on the questions that have been posted in the chat and see if you can answer any of these. Then, so if you may already have done, have you had it? Are you thinking of having it translated, or indeed translating it yourself?
Yeah, my wife is busy translating it into French. I think she's on chapter 2 already.
Right. Okay.
No, 4, or chapter 4, she says. Yeah. And I'm hoping that somebody will want to translate it into Spanish as well, you know, so.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? Translations are, there's a real skill in translating a book, isn't it? Because you've got to, it's not just a kind of verbatim, you've got to still capture the essence of the story and put that.
There are a couple of very good professional translators here with us tonight, you know, so they know exactly what you're talking about. You know, it's a very specialised skill.
It is indeed. So Nathaniel's saying, so do you now check for aliens before you flush?
I do check before I flush, so yes, I suppose, yeah.
Have you ever found an alien in the toilet bowl? This is what we want to know.
Not while sober, no.
So Raphael has said, if Mike was ever to be turned into a movie, do you have any idea who should be in it?
Yes, Anna Hastings and Keith Warwick.
So you've got your cast there already between your friends and family. So that's it.
No, I mean the main character, Mike, I've no idea. I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but it seems to me these days in films and series they're getting better and better at choosing and grooming child actors. Maybe grooming's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at some of the, you think the whole kind of Harry Potter series is an example of kind of like you watch those kids then grow up, you know. So you just need to write some more Mike stories then. That's the, you know, so they've got.
Well, actually, my wife Mickey came through the other day and you know, stood there for about 10 minutes telling me a synopsis of the next book of Mike, and it's a really good idea. So yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'll come. That's good. Right.
But before that, I've on the website I've written. You can see some short stories that I've written, and also there's a synopsis of a couple of novels that I've been writing, and one of them I would hope to publish very soon. It's a novel for adults, and it's called Oh Sunny Day, and it's a dystopian tale about extreme climate change. Extreme climate change. I mean, terrible things happening. It's laugh a minute stuff. It really is. Yeah.
Something else, another light hearted read to look forward to then. That's the. So can we look forward to some more? Do you think Mike will come back then? You've got this story there, but had you thought about, you know, writing more Mike stories before your wife can come up with a synopsis, or was it that one's done and I'll just move on because I've got all these other stories still to tell?
No, I found it very easy to write it, so I think I would be quite happy to write a sequel. You know, if it's successful enough, then definitely write a sequel. I don't think it would take that long to do. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And Claire was asking about the style. She says she likes the writing style, and I don't know where it came from. It just came out like that, but it's a style that I just find very natural to me. You know, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think was it you, Keith, mentioned or somebody mentioned the voice, you know, having your voice as an author, and I think, you know, if you've got your voice as an author, then it's much easier to write. You're not pretending to be someone else. It just comes out naturally.
Yeah.
And quickly.
And do you think then maybe your years of writing your English language books, has that helped you actually even just still find your voice, although you're writing a different style? Has that helped? Yeah,
I mean, you've got to write in lots of different styles when you're doing the English language teaching books. So you do develop your skill set for that. And also the editors, there's a couple of the editors here tonight, and other people that work in publishing, and they are strict. You know, they really make you work very hard. So you've got to be able to write in different styles and adapt what you're writing to what they want, you know, and I think that's very good training for writing fiction as well.
Yeah. So so it's great. I'm going to see if we open up the mics and see if there's anybody, if anybody actually wants to you know, ask a direct question or to kind of have a comment. So we can actually open up the mic. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put it to gallery view so I can hopefully see everybody, because we've got 2 pages. But if there's anybody who wants to give me a wave or stick a wee note in the chat if you'd like to actually be unmuted and say, ask something to Bob directly or have a comment. So we can watch and see, do we notice anybody waving at us? Or are they all shy now? Is that what they? Oh, right, is that Evelyn? Was that you? Wait, right, okay, there we go. Let's try unmute. You maybe have to unmute yourself then, Evelyn. There we go.
Oh,
Yep, that's you.
I've never used Zoom before, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, well, I live in Germany, and I've ordered the book, and Bob was saying that he's got these PDFs and glossaries. Are these just English basically, or Scottish English?
Yeah. They're all English, yeah. Because, you know, I didn't want to do a separate one for Spain, a separate one for France, and so on.
Yeah. But you could do some country-specific ones possibly in the future if there's.
Ojalá. You know, I mean, if it sells well enough, then yeah, definitely. You know, but. But I've been working like 15-hour days, 7-day weeks for so long now that no, I'm not going to do it if I don't need to. Yeah.
So well, I look forward to reading it anyway.
Thanks.
Nice to be involved in this launch, and it's quite amazing that it's worked. I didn't think I would be able to get hooked up.
Yeah, technological miracle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wanted to say hello, have a question specifically they'd like to? Yeah. So I'm coming to Simon. Okay. There we are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bob, that having brain spotting, I think I can probably handle your spots. No, you can't hear me.
Yeah, your voice went really weird. I mean, even weirder than usual, you know.
I said, having read Train Spotting, I think I can handle your Scots.
Yeah, I think you probably can. I mean, you can actually, one of the few English people I know that can actually do a reasonably good Scottish accent. You know.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, the way politics are going, you might want to be thinking about developing your Scottish so you can move to a sensible country.
I live in France, Bob.
Oh yeah, that's
fine.
Thank you, Simon. Time for one more. Anybody else want to ask a question? Yeah, Mo, there we go. I'll come up and unmute you. Oh, you might have to actually try and unmute yourself because you maybe come out. So there you are, that's you. There you are.
Well, this has been great so far, and it's great to see you and the family. Question I want to ask is, how did you find ending the book and getting to that end point?
by starting at the beginning and continuing until it finished. I didn't plan the book. I mean, I think a lot of times you do plan books. I mean, Sunny Day, I planned it to a certain extent, Sunny Day. Quite a lot, actually. But this just developed. I just wrote it chapter by chapter, and it seemed to develop naturally, you know? I mean, you get ideas, you know, if you've written, say, 7 or 8 chapters, and what's going to happen next? And I don't know about other people that have written fiction, but I get my best ideas when I'm either on the toilet, lying down on my bed, or walking in the park, you know. So you'll be walking around the park or walking up the hillside. I mean, Patrick and Didi, wouldn't that be good, you know, walking up a mountain? And that's where you very often get your great ideas from, you know, the best ideas.
It's never when you're sitting at your desk.
No, you just got to get up and do something. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Bob.
No problem, Mo. Nice to see you.
Okay, so thank you. There we go. So what we're going to suggest we do now is, in normal circumstances, if we'd been in the room with you, we would all have given you a big round of applause and said congratulations and hopefully raised something.
Sorry, just one sec before you do that, Kim. Can I just make a plea to everybody? Because you all know how hard it is to get a book out there and get it noticed. I mean, so many very good books come out and just disappear. So please, when you've read the book, if you enjoy it, please write a review, get the review out as often as you can, and publicize it amongst your friends and acquaintances. And if you're a teacher and perhaps amongst your students, get the message out. If you see one of my Facebook posts or Instagram posts, which, by the way, I don't write because I can't handle Instagram, Anna does them for me. But if you see any of those posts, don't just like, comment, because apparently if you comment, then, I don't know, people can see them, more people can see them. So, you know, please help me. If you like the book, please help me trying to get it out there and become more popular.
Absolutely, and yeah, reviews, we talk about them as being currency, because we all do actually we read reviews now before we buy anything, and it certainly helps, you know, people to find your book. So and it is available on, well, I don't know if it's on Amazon Spain yet, because I know you've had the issues with the Spanish Amazon system, but there are lots of online retailers all around the world who have got the book. So you know, it's and you know, you have got some links on your website as well, Bob.
Yeah. If you're in Spain or in Poland, then just go to Amazon UK and order it from there. And the link that seems to work the best is Book Depository, which is also on Amazon UK. So that's probably the best place. And it actually doesn't work out more expensive, really, because you got to pay for the postage, but the book's cheaper in Britain than it is in the continent. So, yeah, works out about the same. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before I get everybody to give you a big round of applause and some cheers? So.
No, thank you. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. I will raise a glass of red wine in your honour in about 3 minutes from now.
Yeah. And Bernadette's asking, does it take, it says it'll take 1 or 2 months. No, that's not. It's just a bit of a trick and a quirk from some of the retailers. It will turn up probably a lot faster than that. So yeah, so please don't worry about just order the books. They're usually a lot faster than that. So if everybody is okay as well, I would like to just take a couple of photographs. So again, just it's the, so you're almost like the Muppets here, and or goggle box if we've been talking about. So if anybody doesn't want to be there, you can switch your camera off, but I would just like, so I can actually capture, we can get everybody smiling, that would be good. And I'm just going to move and capture the next page because I've got 2 pages of everybody there as well. So there we are. I've got some photographs for them, and then I'm going to unmute everybody. This will be a bit of a rabble. So if it's not unmuted, you might have to unmute yourself to come on. So you can see usually by the, well, you can unmute yourself. Not coming through.
Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you for not dancing.
You would be surprised. Nikki and I have been practicing our dance skills every day for the last 3 months.
I can say it's true.
Right.
So can I say, after 3, can we all give Bob a huge big round of applause and a big cheer to say congratulations, and well done for getting Bob, Mike and the Microscopic Aliens out on sale. So 1, 2, 3, congratulations!
Well done.
Hello Ricky. Hello Judy.
Hey everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello Catherine and Bruno. Hello everyone.
Hi, Mickey.
Hello.
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 Hello.